This week I'm interviewing Corey Nelson, who is the owner of Filmed In. He takes headshots for actors, for people who are realtors, and for models. That is really his specialty, but his end goal is to be a movie producer. That is really what he wants to do with Filmed In. So in this video we'll talk a lot about his goals, how he got started, and even the effects of AI on today's industries, so you're not going to want to miss it. Back everybody, I am with Corey from Filmed In. I am super excited to interview him. We actually worked at Home Depot together quite a long time ago. Thank you for doing this.
Yeah, well, absolutely. I'm glad to be on. Thank you for having me.
Yes. You still work at Home Depot?
I do. I still work full-time there and do this full-time.
Okay. And then can you kind of tell us what you do at Home Depot just at a
Sure. So I currently right now I'm just a stock boy. So
Okay.
I just put stuff on shelves. It's a huge departure from what I was doing like 3 years ago. I kind of really stepped back in that role so I could focus on what I'm doing here on the side, the film and stuff.
In the beginning, did you do both?
I did.
Okay, so
I
you
did.
worked
I managed installs and install-related issues, and also managed a business, and that was a lot of stress. It was a lot.
I'm sure being a stock boy is a little bit more steady, a little bit
So much easier.
And I'm sure the schedule's probably a little bit more.
Oh, yeah.
It's
absolutely.
more lovely. You can kind of work around it.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
tell us a little bit about how you started Filmed In, and I know you've already told me,
Yep.
but just kind of share that.
Sure, absolutely. So I started in 2020. We got this letter from our HR manager for the company, which was it was a letter for lockdown. So when lockdown was happening, we didn't know exactly what was going to happen with it, or was it going to be enforcement police? What you're going to have a permit to ride on the road? It was all totally new territory. So they delivered these letters to everybody to keep in your car in case you got pulled over. You could show it to the officer saying that you're an essential employee going to work, yada yada, do an essential job. Nothing about what I did was essential. I managed home improvement renovations. Beyond you need an air conditioner or you need a water heater, nothing else about what I did was essential whatsoever. So that was kind of like the big clicking moment of man, what I'm doing is not really congruent with what I'm trying to do. So I did a thing where I went to Vibranium Comics, which is a cool little comic book store here in Ocala. I went down there. I didn't have any money. I knew what I was doing was not exactly what I wanted to do, but I didn't know how to get into the film stuff. So I didn't know how to get a camera or how to afford any of that other stuff. That stuff's super expensive. So I went there. We were digging through the bulk Pokemon cards things just for fun, and I started finding all these cards that were like 5 or 10 cents that he was selling for, and they were really worth like $1, $2, $3. And I was like, man, I can make some money doing this. So that's what I did. I started buying Pokemon cards, Yu-Gi-Oh cards, Magic cards for like 5 cents, and then selling them for like $2, $3. So I was going through all of them, figuring out how much they were worth, and then just reposting them on an app called TCG Player. And I invested $15 because it's what I had. That was literally all the dollars I had in my bank account. So I had $15. I invested that into Pokemon cards, and then sold that. And over the course of like 2 weeks, I think, I made $50 off those. Turned that $50 into 200, 200, 500, 500, 750, and just kind of rolled from there. Eventually, I ended up about $1,250. I'm like, all right, I've got what I need, I think, for a solid foundation at least. So I bought a camera. I think I bought a single lens for that camera, and then a microphone. And then I kind of went on from there. I needed to know how to use the equipment. So I started offering all these businesses a free promo video, and we called it Small Business Saturdays. I think those are still up on YouTube, even if you want to see them. But they were just like short little interviews we were doing with these business owners, just one, shouting out their business, and two, giving me a chance to learn how to do ISO, aperture, all these other technical camera terms and what they meant and how they related to each other. So I did that for a little while, learned how to use all that stuff, and then from there I started to know all these newer people who own businesses or who had locations that I could use for like short films, because that was really the direction that I was trying to go in. So I found all these great locations, all these awesome people, made the connections. I'm like, cool, I can use this. I need actors. So I need to figure out a way that I can meet and learn actors the same way that I met and learned all these business people. So I was like, well, what do actors need? Actors need headshots. They always need headshots. So I'm like, cool, I'll start doing headshots. never taken a photo of anything besides my cell phone in my life. So I watched a ton of videos on how to do it, ordered a lens specifically for headshots, and then went and started offering free acting headshots for people in downtown Ocala. I'd walk around with them. We'd take 6, 7, 8 pictures. I learned how to do the photography stuff because it was totally different than doing the video stuff that I was used to. And then kind of from there, we went and I ended up charging people money for real estate headshots because it kind of, there's not a giant acting community here in Ocala. So most of what that translates into for a usable skill is real estate headshots, business headshots. So I started selling that to people, and now I do way more of that than I do literally anything else. So for a film guy, I kind of got stuck in this world of like headshots, which is great. I make awesome money doing it. I love it. It's fun work, but it's not the passion, it's not the dream. But I got to meet a lot of cool actors, a lot of people who are crew or behind the scenes who also needed headshots for stuff. So that was pretty neat. That's kind of how I got my start.
Okay, yeah, no, I think it's super important and also super interesting that you, for one, I think in 2020 a lot of people got started by flipping stuff and they invested in and made a business out of it, which I personally think your story is awesome. So I love hearing stories like that. I just think it's unique and different. But my one question that I've kind of been ringing in my head since I had planned this interview is, I know everybody is so hardcore with the AI and talking about how AI is going to ruin actors in a way, headshots, models, all of that, kind of what you do. So I would love to know your thought process on that, because that's kind of the whole interview is I always focus what's going on in social media or like in the tech world. So that's like something I'm interested in, and I think it's important to talk about. So what do you think about all of that?
No, I love it. So I love it. That's a huge conversation going on right now with like photography world and really all creatives. Obviously, there's a whole WGA strike and all that stuff. My theory on it is AI will never replace you. The person using AI will replace you. So what I mean by that is horseshoes, people who made horseshoes got replaced by automobile wheel makers. So people who make tires for automobiles replace people making horseshoes. The technology advances. There's always a position for somebody to be doing something with the technology as a tool. It's not necessarily that every person is going away. It's that the people who adapt and use that technology to grow and to do more creative and cool things with it end up replacing the people who don't. That's kind of my theory. I like it. I've been using it a ton. Obviously, we can't use any of it for commercial stuff right now as far as the Photoshop stuff goes. They haven't officially released their stuff, but just playing around with it with like some images that I've taken for what we call real life, which is movie-based portraits. It's been awesome. It's been really cool using it. So I'm super excited to see it come along. I'm really excited to see how it's going to be usable for like headshots and how I'm going to be able to like translate that into more of like film stuff that I'm doing.
Okay, interesting. Yeah. I'm interested to hear your take on that, because I interviewed a photographer who does more like weddings and things like that. And to me, it's very different than what you do. Totally different. Yeah. So like in my opinion, I don't think AI will ever replace that. It's very emotional, very mood setting. But like what you do is kind of like I don't know, simplistic, I guess you could say. Like it's not, there's no emotion into it. So I feel like AI would affect what you do more than what she does. That's just my opinion.
Yeah. So and it depends. There's different stuff. Like a real estate agent and a business headshot, there's not generally a lot of emotion into it. Now in acting headshots, the whole purpose is like you have to portray I have to portray their best Disney villain, because that's the role they're going for. So like you have to get that type of emotion out of it. But yeah, no, absolutely. There's again, the tool is there for the people who use it and can use it to make more and cooler creative stuff. And the people who don't and are like totally afraid of it, they're the ones who get replaced and get kind of weeded out.
Yeah, no, I kind of agree. I have mixed feelings about it. I don't necessarily hate it, but I don't know if I always love it. I think with real estate, a lot of people talk about how AI is going to replace a realtor, and I can't imagine how that would go, because there's too much emotional like baggage that goes into when you purchase a house. Like I don't think people always realize as a realtor you're like the therapist, the mortgage broker, the title agent. Like I play so many roles in a transaction because I'm working with a human being, and like this is the biggest purchase that they're ever going to make in their entire life, and so it's so emotional that AI would be like, it was actually quite comical, because I was trying to make like an expired like note card to send people, and the way it worded it was so like dry and robotic, which I
Yeah.
figured it would be. But I was, because it was like, you need to use AI for this stuff, and I'm like, okay, let's try it. I'm
Yeah.
always willing to try something, and it was like, I saw that your house expired was like the very first line, and I was like, no, that's not gonna work because
Yeah.
like
It's
like
never gonna go anywhere.
never gonna go anywhere.
Yeah.
So I just thought it was really comical. But what are some ways that you would use it? Like I know
Yeah.
you talked about I think I've seen a couple things you did where it's like maybe dramatic backgrounds.
Yes.
Yeah, but can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, and so I'll even link you the photo if you want to throw it
Okay.
up there. But we
Of
did
course.
a photo shoot for our series Real Life where it was Alien. So we were trying to recreate Ripley from Aliens.
Okay.
And so we got a model. We got her all dressed up in the right stuff. We got the right props in that there. But it's shot against a white background because how do you make a spaceship background, right? So then we take it to AI. We type in, generate a spaceship, interior, and it made this awesome, beautiful thing and merged it like perfectly with the picture. So in the headshot space, my theory
Okay.
is that you probably won't have a lot of headshot photographers around who do business and real estate headshots in like 5 years.
Okay.
Like most of your headshot people will probably be people going for acting because you kind of already touched on it
Yeah.
before, which is the one thing the AI has got a lot of difficulty with is conveying that emotion. Right now, I think there's a TikTok filter for it. You can take a picture of yourself and it will take like these great, amazing headshots for you. And they look so cool. And they look, pretty close to on par with what
Pretty
your
close,
average
yeah.
headshot photographer can do. Which is great, but like there's no emotion to them. It's just you against a black wall with kind of a smile on the face, but it's not conveying anything.
No.
But yeah, I think you're going to see that industry, that headshot industry, as a whole is going to have to kind of move more towards the creative field. That's really what's going to have to do.
No, and I 100% agree with you. It's been really interesting because I talked to with the other photographer Brittany, and then I talked with Matt Gray. I don't know if you know.
Yeah.
Okay, knew
Yeah,
Matt. Okay.
I've worked with him a few times.
Okay, so with Matt Gray, and we were talking specifically with Brittany because she conveys the story. I personally think storytellers are going to win overall. Like a lot of people talk about how AI content is going to like take over, and like in real estate, it's a huge thing right now to like create like your like little avatar and talk and like have it convey information, which I think is okay, but like it doesn't. There's no emotion, and like if you're buying something or just if you're trying to connect with somebody, I don't think AI is ever going to really be able to do that successfully unless
Yeah.
it's like a robot.
Right. Yeah, and I think it will get better as we go. So it's
Yeah.
it's one of those tools that like after years and years and years of like using it, I think it's going to become a lot more difficult to determine
I agree.
what was AI and what wasn't AI. We're not anywhere near that
No,
yet.
because the
Like,
hands are terrible.
yeah, we're 5 to 10 years away from like that really becoming a conversation. Now, that being said, this AI thing's come out of nowhere. In the beginning of 2023, January of 2023, no one was talking about this.
No.
one was talking about AI, ChatGPT, any of that stuff.
Any of that stuff.
And we're like, what, 6, 7 months in?
Yeah.
And now it's like all anyone's talking about. So this stuff comes out of nowhere, like super fast. That technology advances day after day. So I could be wrong with my 5 to 10 years, but yeah, I think you're way away from it.
Yeah, and I think you're right. I think basically because we're having such a large chip shortage that I think it's going to be a delayed thing just because those chips have to be made to be able to do
Right,
the AI.
exactly.
So if you're having that shortage, there's no way for us to advance them in the rate that they probably could normally, I would
Yeah,
think.
no, absolutely. And
Yeah.
there's a topic that's always brought up in I guess a comparison that's always brought up every time people talk about AI, and I'm sure you've heard about it, which is the tractor didn't replace the farmer.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. That's commonly thrown out there, and I think it's 100% true. I mean, when a tractor came out, there were just less farmers. There's
Yeah.
still farmers today. There's just a lot less of them. I think that's what's going to happen to your photographers, your videographers, and all that. There's still going to be people who do it who are really good at using the tools. It's going to weed out a lot of the middle level and lower. That
Okay.
stuff's all going away.
So now, how do you think that would affect like movies? Like, do you think, because people are talking about how
Yeah.
they're going to make movies with AI, so what do you think about
Oh
that?
God, absolutely you could.
Okay.
I mean, right now they're just making the still images with it,
Yeah.
but how long until you see like something where they make individual frames that can put it all
I
together?
saw them do some like they made I saw something like a short movie or short thing
Yeah.
with like cartoon characters. It wasn't with people,
Yeah.
but it was with like characters.
Yeah.
I mean it's not much different than what we do now, really.
Yeah, and I think where that goes, right,
Mm-hmm.
and to use Pixar, for instance,
Okay.
as an example, right? So in Toy Story, when they're doing that, there's a lot of they spent, God, I think 8 years making Toy Story.
Yeah, it's a long time.
There's a lot of scenes that are just like, okay, Woody picks his hat back up, puts it on his head. That's a lot of just kind of minutia to edit over and over and over again. And I think you get to the point of like the AI doesn't know that somebody needs to see that scene. I think the AI knows how to render it. It can render it from hat on the ground till hat on Woody's head. And I think that's where that kind of diverges. You're going to have that person there as a storyteller who's like, okay, well, we need this scene, we need that scene. And then the AI is going to kind of generate a lot of that stuff. There's a lot of our movies now are CGI, especially like Marvel movies and that type of stuff. There's a really phenomenally cool scene in Shang-Chi Legend of the Ten Rings where they're having the bus fight.
Yes.
And they spent forever trying to get the light on the outside, like, it was all shot on blue screen, trying to get the windows to reflect the light correctly. Now, I mean, that's something you could type in, not now, but soon. It'll be a thing you can type into a prompt like, okay, hey, make me a few different reflections and I'll choose what works the best, and then copy paste those through Windows. So it just becomes, I think, the barrier for entry just goes a lot lower. That's it.
Yeah, and I think that's something special. I think that's why Hollywood and a lot of people are freaking out because anybody can make a movie. I mean, like basic parts. At some point, anybody can make a movie if they're creative enough and want to.
Yeah.
So the competition really could be unreal. It doesn't matter how much money you have. I mean, basic tools, you'll be able to do it at some point. I think anyway.
And I think it's Mark Ruffalo even posted just while we're talking about the acting and that type of stuff. He even posted right now, which was all the WGA, Writers Guild of America, are all on strike right now, and obviously SAG-AFTRA just joined in, so all the actors are on strike. Well, if you're somebody new into acting who wants to get into acting, SAG released this statement that if you go work for any of these Hollywood or what they're calling struck films, then you have zero chance of ever being in SAG-AFTRA, which translates to your career's dead, essentially. So like even new actors, they can't like hire off the street. But Mark Ruffalo made this great post, which was, hey, since we aren't working for any of those and SAG is okay with working on non-struck films, we should all just go work on indie movies. Yeah. And then give Hollywood competition, which would be amazing. So I'm hoping for that.
I know, I'm hoping for it too. I think there are pluses. There are a lot of negatives to AI, but I think in a lot of ways AI it will even the playing field for a lot of things that really it shouldn't be the way that it is.
Absolutely.
That's just my opinion. I mean, there's no reason why anybody can't make a movie and it go viral. I mean, we've been doing that. I personally think, like YouTube, TikTok, Facebook, any like social media platform that we would consider social, I personally think at some point will replace what we know as television. It will be, it
already has.
It kind of has, but more of like the indie side of it. So I know people are already making shows and things like that, but it still takes a large budget. Obviously, you know this.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, to do all of that, and I think once AI and stuff comes into play, it'll be easy to do.
Oh yeah, I mean, now your small budget film is $5 million and under. Yeah. Like that's the threshold for a smaller film. So like that's insane money to me and you.
Yeah, I know that is insane.
Yeah, I mean that's crazy high. So I mean, even like the low level stuff, I think that's going to make a lot of that easier. There's certain roles again that are probably more subject to change, like your digital artists, all that type of stuff. That's probably going to kind of go away. I think
so too.
On a grand scale, there'll probably be somebody still there supervising, but yeah, I think that stuff's more in depth to go away than really acting and that stuff.
Okay. Yeah. Do you find any of your models being concerned at all? Because none of them have really talked about any of that.
I mean, all the people I shoot for acting and that, yes, absolutely.
Okay. But the models,
not really.
Interesting.
Which is super weird, right?
Yeah.
So, and I'm sure there are people out there that are. Just the people that I have interacted with on a daily basis have not really been that concerned with it.
Okay.
So I don't know. Yeah.
I think they're in the most detriment anyway. Because I mean, if you can type in AI and it can be a perfectly beautiful person of any shape or form, then like what do they have?
So
or what do you think on that?
Yeah. So and I think a lot of the difficulty is, and it'll get there eventually. Like the AI will get there to where it can perfectly recreate something. It's just not there yet.
No, it's not.
But if you're somebody who's designing a fashion brand, right, and you're trying to make this like really crazy cool dress, shirt, whatever, you want to see how that, or somebody who's trying to buy it wants to see how that looks on a person. AI right now, if you type in, put somebody in a dress shirt or whatever, the results you get are wild out there. Like you have to really tailor that response, but to get it to perfectly create your shirt on somebody, I think it's going to be a lot harder than just putting somebody in your shirt.
Yeah, no, I kind of agree with that to a degree. I'm interested to see, because that is something that people are talking about, that like models. I still think like you're going to have a runway or of some sort to show off clothes. Because I'm sorry, like looking at a digital, even not a picture, even if it's a real person, looking at a picture of somebody versus seeing it in person is always very different.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Like it can't compare to what you see like in the physical world. So I think it'll just change again. I think it'll be something that adapts. But I was just curious because you talk with these people often. I don't.
Yeah, all the
so you're
time.
in that circle and I'm not. So the other thing I wanted to ask you is like, kind of tell us some goals. I know you kind of mentioned it, but what are some goals and things coming? You know, what you're excited about?
Sure.
Yeah.
So my lifetime goal, and it has been since I was like 10 years old, has been to direct a Star Wars movie. This really awesome movie came out when I was 10 called Empire of Dreams. And before then, I was like totally set. I loved Star Wars, watched it all the time. The first 3 movies were really all that was out when I was younger.
Yeah.
So I watched that stuff all the time. But this movie came out, it's called Empire of Dreams. And what it is, it's a documentary that goes through like George Lucas making it, where these people, these documentary filmmakers, went and they found all this behind the scenes footage of Lucas and his team building the props, because none of special effects existed at that point.
No.
Like they were hanging potatoes from strings to make asteroids.
I know.
Like
it's insane.
Yeah, and that's the coolest part of filmmaking to me, was watching that. I'm like, man, that's really cool how you have to like problem solve all that stuff on a daily basis. Like, how am I going to make this look like it's really a thing and it's not? And like, to me, that's been fascinating. But ever since I watched that when I was 10, like that's been my goal. But yeah, so that's the goal. It's where I'm trying to get to. So everything's been kind of gearing up to having all the stuff in place to make short films. Later this year, I got hired on to do a directing role on a short film, which is paid, which is awesome. So I'm loving that. So that will be my first feature that I will be in charge of. I've been on a few film sets where like I either run sound or gaffer or PA work, that type of stuff. But yeah, so the first one I'm what's called an above the line employee on, which will be really neat. So that's something that's coming later this year that I'm super excited about.
Okay. So you don't have anything planned for like yourself, short films?
Yes.
So is it yours or is that not? I guess I'm confused on that.
Sure.
So I'm ignorant on how it works.
You're totally fine.
Yeah.
So this generally there's a lot of people out there who write their own scripts and direct it.
Okay.
This particular one was a script writer who wrote it, gave it to a producer friend of his, and then the producer's like, well, I need to find a director. I'm like, well, I'll do it.
Okay.
So for this amount or whatever. And so that's how that one's working.
Okay.
I do have one that's in the chamber for hopefully either later this year or early next year, for a short horror film that we're writing, and then also a web series about really terrible comic book superheroes. Like one of the main people, his power is that he has toxic sweat. So like slowly over time he can corrode metal. Like it's all just really horrendously bad superpowers. So just some cool stuff like that. Yeah, that's some stuff that I'm excited about.
Okay, now is that gonna be like people or like cartoon?
That'll be people.
People.
Yeah.
Oh, so it's gonna be people.
Yes.
Okay.
So this is what I've been working towards for 3 years now, of finding locations. So I found all the places I need. I found a pizza place. I needed a pizza place. I found a comic book shop. Got a comic book shop. And I've been systematically working towards. And then I've got my people. I've been doing a few acting headshots that I've given away to a couple people of like, well, I'm going to give you this in return for later hopefully getting this. I have a lady who is so awesome that I did some headshots for earlier this year. She's like, she moved to LA. She's like, I'll fly back. Just let me know like when we're filming and I'll fly back. I'm like, awesome. Yes. Super cool. So yeah, no, it's in the chamber. I'm super excited about it. Hopefully we'll be either very late this year or very early next year shooting it.
Okay.
Because it's a lot of outdoor stuff. So I'm kind of hoping it'll get colder. Yeah.
Hopefully. I don't know. It's
yeah. I know. At least not 100 degrees.
I know. Like
yeah.
I think they had the heat index of 104 yesterday.
Yeah, it was ridiculous.
It's ridiculous. I know, it was really funny. We went to Michigan for a friend's wedding.
Yeah.
And it's the middle of summer, and it's like, a high 84, low of like 57. And we were like, I walked outside around like 5 o'clock, and I was like, oh my God. I was like, do you want to go for a walk, babe? I was like, do you want to go? Like, I was like, do you want to go for a walk? I was like, I don't ever feel like this in Florida, but I was like, let's go for a walk. So we like walked down to a coffee shop and like walked all, because it's very walkable there in Michigan. And it was just like super crazy to me because here in Florida, it's just so freaking hot.
Oh, and I was just in Detroit last month.
Okay, yeah.
So
it's
the
same thing.
Oh, it's awesome.
I know.
Great.
I understand why people come like live in Florida and then go back to Michigan during the
yeah.
summer. I get it. And they were like all of the people that we went to the wedding, they were all complaining that it was super hot. Us Floridians were like, this is like
this is amazing.
Yeah, can we like have this in Florida?
Most of the houses that I like went by, or like some of my relatives' houses that I went in, there's no like no central AC.
I know.
And that's unheard of down here.
Oh,
like
yeah,
if
no,
you
we-
have a house, it has to have it. It's considered essential down here.
Yes, you would die.
Yeah,
It's
up there
like-
it's like nothing. It's like, oh, how do you keep cold? Oh, we just open the windows.
I know.
It's like,
I'm
oh,
like,
cool.
yeah,
That's awesome.
I know it got a little bit hot in the Airbnb that we stayed in, but because it had like a window unit, but at like midday and like at night it was like nice, and I was like, okay,
Yeah,
this
that
is
was awesome.
It was wild, yeah.
Yeah, it was really cool.
The last thing that I kind of wanted to ask you, I always do this. I always ask entrepreneurs that I interview,
Yeah.
what are some tips that you would give to somebody else? Because I think
Yeah.
it sounds like you like to give back. I like to give back
Yeah,
too.
absolutely.
So, what are some tips if somebody's looking to do film?
Do something about it.
Okay.
Like, I spent 10 years working in retail, not knowing like how to start, trying to figure out how to start, drawing up plans of like, well, if I did this or if I did that or whatever, and like that got me nowhere at the end of the day. That got me just 10 years, not wasted, but essentially wasted
Yeah.
of not going towards that. Just start doing something. So even if you have to, use your cell phone, whatever, pick that up and film something on it. A lot of amazing movies that had theatrical releases were shot on iPhones.
Wow.
You could absolutely pick up your phone and start recording something. Just do something about it.
Okay.
Like sitting there pondering is not going to get you anywhere.
No, I agree. I think in this world, a lot of people, there's so much inspirational content out there that you want to absorb it all.
Yeah.
And it makes you feel good, but you don't actually like go out. If you don't actually go out and do anything, then you don't build anything.
No, absolutely. And there's a fine line between like you're somebody who either wants to be an entrepreneur or you're a student.
Yeah.
And that's it. And like a student just listens to YouTube or whatever all the time, or whatever your source of education that you're getting it from is, and you just listen to that constantly. You don't ever do anything about it. You just write it down, you whiteboard it, you try to figure out exactly how it's all going to work out. And then there's somebody who's entrepreneurial who like you'll pick up, it's 50-50, right? You take something that you learn and then you apply it. But if you're not doing that second part of it, you're just a student. You're not doing anything with it. But yeah, it should always be about 50-50. 50% learning, 50% actually doing something about it.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. I think entrepreneurship during COVID got really trendy because a lot of people got into it because what else were we? It gave a lot of time for you to do what you wanted to do. I think it also gave like somebody the push to do it, kind of like you.
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe I'm wrong, but
no, it absolutely did.
'cause
That
it
was
kinda-
absolutely eye-opening for me.
Yeah, because I think everybody realized that their job isn't necessarily as secure as they assumed it was.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, really, I think it kind of sucked that it was that way, but I mean, people got let go and nobody cared. People didn't get paid. I don't think Home Depot did that. But
No. Actually,
yeah.
Home Depot was great. They gave they gave hazard pay to people and stuff. It was really awesome.
Yeah, no, Home Depot's a really good company. If you want a part-time job or if you're a high school student, like I went to college and I worked at Home Depot. It was a great job. I could never complain.
Yeah.
It had nothing to do with my degree, so sometimes maybe I regret that part of it. But overall, it was a great company, and that's why I stayed.
Yeah, no,
my
wife worked for another company who I won't name, but they took all their full-timers and made them part-timers when COVID hit. So they said if you're a full-timer now, you can expect to make 15 hours a week. That's what you can kind of bank on. And then they gave their version of hazard pay, which was like $50.
Oh wow.
Home Depot, they kept all their full-timers full-time. They gave every full-timer an additional $200 a paycheck every week for like 2.5 years.
Okay.
Yeah, it was awesome.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was really, really cool.
Yeah.
And they've given us like dollar raises for the last 3 years or whatever. Like every year, just here's another dollar, here's another dollar.
I know.
So it's a very good place.
It is very good.
Yeah.
That's the one thing I think a lot of people are like, why, what about Home? Like I always tell, I'm like, go to Publix or go to Home Depot. But I always recommend Home Depot because I worked there and I thought it was great.
Publix is great too. I've got a bunch of friends that work there. They absolutely love it. I know
Yeah.
they give you like stocks and that type of stuff, so that's great.
Yeah, they do.
But yeah, no, absolutely.
But I really enjoyed this, and I appreciate you coming and doing
Yeah,
this.
absolutely.
And I
It was
think
awesome.
it went great, and I really enjoyed our conversation.
All right, thanks so much. Thank you again for having me.
Yes, thank you.